Hi guys, welcome back to Real Life Wednesday. Here we go. Okay, so this video, I put up a poll on Instagram. So for those of you that voted in that, thank you. I had a lot of responses. I'm sitting on a stool in my kitchen, so don't mind me. Had a lot of responses for the video that we're filming today, which is life after sports. And for me, that was right out of college. But for those of you that voted for the other videos, we are going to touch on those as well at a later date because this one and one of the other ones were super close. So I just went with the one that had the most votes. So life after sports. So I think I should just kind of give a brief background for this, but I did gymnastics my entire life. My dad was my coach, so it was in all aspects of my life. My mom did gymnastics. Definitely a unique dynamic for me. I know a lot of people out there probably have had their parents as like little league coaches or something, but when your dad is your coach, my dad became my coach when I was in the 2nd grade, and he was my coach up until I graduated high school. So it was a very long run, and it was always in our family. So going to college to have coaches that weren't family was strange to me. My dad knew me better than anyone. My parents knew me better than anyone, so that's all I knew. That was how I was coached. I had other coaches, of course, but my dad being the head coach and the owner of the business, he kind of ran point, and that was that. After I graduated high school, I had a full scholarship to go to college for gymnastics, and after the recruiting process, I ultimately decided to go to Ohio State to do gymnastics. And I was so excited, one, to leave Pennsylvania because I never really saw myself living there or staying in my hometown forever. I knew that I always wanted to leave and to be independent and to get out of where I was from. Like I was saying, I was super excited just to leave and get out of Pennsylvania and go to college. I think every high school student is excited just to spread their wings and fly and be independent, and you hear stories about college, you talk to your friends, you watch movies, like all this stuff, and we all have this idea in our head of what college is going to be like. But of course I knew from the get-go that my experience was going to be vastly different than what you see on TV, or probably what a lot of my friends were going to experience. So it was a fresh start, and I thought that I was going to just kind of get this opportunity to do a school sport and to be part of the culture and the school spirit and all of this stuff. But when you go to a school like Ohio State that has unlimited resources for academic support, athlete support, there are so many people who their job is to make sure that you are successful in anything that you do. And I am thankful and grateful for all of those opportunities that they were given to me, because my academic support staff through and through got me through college. They are some of the greatest people because I leaned on them for way more than just academic support. There were times where they were my shoulder to cry on when I had no one else to go to because life, school, and sports was just tearing me apart. So you just learned to deal, but you also knew that there were a lot of people in your corner to help take care of you and to take care of making sure that you are successful. Especially at a school like Ohio State, they instill a very specific work ethic in you from day one. And I don't think there's a single student athlete that went to a Division I college and a Power 5 conference that cannot attest to it is one of the hardest things you will ever have to do, because your sport is your job. And I think that some people don't truly understand the difference between like how things operate at a school like Ohio State, because it is intense. Walking across the stage of graduation at a school like Ohio State is one of the biggest honors. because you know how hard it is. And when I graduated, I took a picture at graduation and sent it to my academic advisors. And I was just like, I did it, I'm done. Praise God, like you don't have to deal with me anymore. I'm out of here. Here we are. I'm going out into the world. And then it hit me. I'm like, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do without these people? These people have held my hand. These people have been there for me. I don't have a resume. I've never had a job. I had an internship for a couple months. If it's not about gymnastics, or the things I got degrees in, what am I going to do? I'd never had a job. I have to get a job. I have to write a resume. I have to write a cover letter. I have to do all of these things. And everything that I have known for my entire life is gone. I didn't have anyone telling me what to do. So I started looking for a job, and I was just confused. I had no idea what to do anymore. I was confused because a lot of people, when they go to college, they're like, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, I want to do sports broadcasting, I want to do this. So your degree helps you do that. I had no idea. And that was a very scary thing. I always knew that I was good at gymnastics. I always knew that my competitive nature made me good at gymnastics. I knew that that was my part of my identity. I was good at gymnastics, and no one could take that away from me. It was then taken away from me because I ran out of time, and now I didn't have anything else to do. And that was devastating. How do you recreate your life? So before, people were like, oh, you do gymnastics, that's so cool. Now it's like, oh, what do you do for work? And I'm like, I have not a clue. Not a single thing was calling my name. So I got a job in sales and marketing, and I was super excited. I was like, yes, I have a corporate job. I have all these goals and all these aspirations. And after doing that job for like 6 weeks, and literally I was also pregnant with my son at the time, so there was just a lot going on. But I was at 7 a.m. meetings, and there were days where I did not get home until 9 p.m. Like on my feet all day long. For $280 for no ma'am. So at that point I was like, look, I'm not making livable wages. I don't actually like what I'm doing. Maybe sales just isn't for me. I love the marketing side of it. I love being able to interact with people, but like, I don't really care to do sales. And maybe this just isn't the company for me. So at this point I was already, I was like 5-6 months pregnant. I didn't feel comfortable trying to look for another corporate job in sales at the time. So in that time I decided to switch roles, and I used my other degree. So I was like, oh, let's work in fashion merchandising. And I loved doing that, but this feeling kept creeping in. And I was living in Minnesota. I was pregnant, and I liked my job. I liked getting ready for the baby and all of this stuff, but I was constantly being reminded that I wasn't who I was before. Or I would like pull out old t-shirts, and I'm like, oh, like this is from this and this meet. Like I'm just, at this point, I'm only down to a couple shirts that I even fit in at this point because my belly was getting bigger, and I was like, oh, this is an old t-shirt or whatever. And I was like, I miss gymnastics. I miss my friends. I miss being part of a team. I don't have that. I'm now in a work world full of people that are significantly older than me. My mind was already on parenting and things like that. I was not a normal 23-year-old at the time. All I could think about was this life that I used to live. And while I was really appreciative that I got a new job and that I was happy with what I was doing, I still did sales to a certain extent. I was working with people, but I got to use my creative side with my fashion degree at this point with this job, and my hands are stuck, but I had to learn how to switch gears. I didn't feel important anymore. I didn't feel utilized. I didn't feel elite the way I felt when I was doing gymnastics. I felt like I had a very rare opportunity to be at the top tier of, you know, like athletics at Ohio State. And I felt camaraderie and commitment and tradition and all of these things, and then it was gone in an instant. And no job or co-work group was able to make it feel the way it was before. And granted, I had only been out of school for not even a year at this point, so I was just kind of floundering. How I was like constantly looking for a way to feel that community again, of people that were like-minded individuals, all for a common goal, whatever that was. I craved that because I had had it my entire life. I was trying to figure out who I was without gymnastics. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, what I was passionate about outside of any sport. My life revolved around sports. My entire life up until the end of college revolved around my sport and how I could fit school and life around my sport because my sport paid for my schooling. I just wanted to feel like what my passion was and what my job was mattered to someone, and like especially myself. I wanted to feel like I was doing what I wanted to do, even if it was a low-ranked job to get to where I wanted to be one day. That was 100% cool with me. I just didn't know where that was. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what that position. I couldn't get on LinkedIn and look for a job that I didn't even, like, there was nothing for me to type into the search bar. I want to feel important. There's no job for that. I took career aptitude test after career aptitude test, and I think that majority of people that know me well enough know that school is not my forte. I'm not great at school. I like learning things, but like the way our school system is set up, I personally don't believe in it. Again, story for another day, but I think that going back to school is not going to be an option for me because it's not how I learn. So I needed to explore ways that I could get to what I wanted to do without going to school to waste a whole bunch of money at this point. So then after I had little J, and I'm still having, at this point, I'm having a major identity crisis because at this point I'm a mom, I'm a stay-at-home mom at that. I quit my job. I didn't want to be at home any longer, but I didn't know what job to have that I could still be readily available for my child all of the time. That job doesn't exist unless you are a stay-at-home parent, or unless I was planning on being his daycare teacher. That it doesn't exist. And I mean, we've talked about this. I didn't know how to rip off the Band-Aid and ask for help. So now we were dealing with I was dealing with trying to find a job that I could be on, be kind of on call with, make decent money so that it's not wasting time, I guess. If we were gonna send him to school or bring in a nanny or something like that, I needed to find a way that I could work, have my own identity, have my own something, so I could feel like Lexi again. So I decided to substitute teach. And I think that this has been my favorite job that I have ever held in my life. I loved every part of substitute teaching. And on days that I was subbing by myself in a lot of the kids' rooms, there was an assignment given. Sometimes it was very, very short notice, but I loved being in the classroom. So I was like the fun sub, and I loved that I was the fun sub, and I got to sit there and talk to the kids, and we used to have just life talks, and a lot of the kids would talk to me about their problems. I would never see these kids ever again, and I actually I would request to go back to certain schools just so I could see some of the kids. And it made my heart happy when they were excited to see me. And that's when I think I fell in love with the idea of working with kids and being able to affect lives the way that I had had positive role models in my life. My dad, I have so many of my friends that were coached by my dad and my mom. They love my parents, and it's such a really cool thing to be able to get on social media for my parents' birthdays, or to see my friends like former teammates like milestones, and my parents are at their weddings, or they're posting them. It's like, hey, I came across this old picture, look at this. And it's like these incredible memories with my parents because they were such influential figures in someone else's life. And I grew up with that. So I think it was kind of ingrained in me that I want to be that person for someone else because I was able to have those people in my life. Even if it's only one person, I want to be able to help people. I want to be able to be a voice and a figure of reason and an ear to listen, a shoulder to cry on, because I always had that for someone else. How was I going to translate all of this into a job? I'm still sitting here trying to figure it out. So now at 25, I don't use either one of my degrees. I work in a field that is completely unrelated. I work from home. I sit and stare at a computer screen all day long, and I'm very appreciative of my job, like through and through. But it challenges me because finance and math are not my strong suit. I sit and talk about fund investments all day. How I even became qualified to do this job, I mean, they gave us extensive training, but like, let me tell you, this was not anywhere close to my wheelhouse of things. And I'm appreciative, and I love the challenge and the learning curve of all of it, but let me tell you, I feel no passion towards it. Walking away from your sport, no matter if you are a professional athlete, an amateur athlete, if your high school football game was the last game that you ever played in, it becomes a part of you in your past. It is no longer who you are. And no job will ever be able to emulate whatever you felt out there on the field, on the court, whatever it is, ever again. You will never be able to recreate that. You'll never be able to be part of that again. Especially not for my sport. Like, retired soccer players can go kick a ball with their kid. Baseball players go hit some balls. Football players, you can pass a ball with your son in your front yard. I will not casually whip out a double pike if you ask me to. On a floor in someone's backyard, absolutely not. I may whip out a handstand or two. My friends know that. I will 100% do that. But to work your entire life for a sport and then you walk into an office full of people that may not have ever had anything like that. They may not have had that path. They were just students, and maybe they worked really hard at that and they have a lot of academic accomplishments, but your paths are very different. So your accolades being academic are great, where mine are athletic. Everyone's the same. Everyone's on a level playing field, and unfortunately, your academic accomplishments or your job history is probably worth more at this point. So life after sports can be tough. It's an adjustment, and I don't think a lot of people talk about it. No one talks about the identity crisis that you go through. No one talks about the fear of failure, because it's ingrained in you by your coaches that you have to be elite at all times, and if you are not elite, you will fail. So a lot of athletes go into a job of I have to be best all of the time, and if I am not, it is not okay to ask for help. It is not okay to fail. I struggle to ask. I mean, as we've learned, I do not like asking for help, and I do not like being wrong. I do not like not being the best at something. I do not like not knowing what is happening in a conversation. I do not like being uneducated about any topic. Teammates come and go, coaches come and go, but I think at the end of the day, coachable athletes, coachable and successful athletes become wonderful employees and business owners. And I will stand by that, because we go through a lot at a young age and we learn through experience. That is how sports work. You don't read a book on how you perform a sport, you practice. We all learn by example and we learn by practice. So becoming coachable, and you build that work ethic from the ground up, it makes you one hell of an employee or business owner one day. So while we are trying to figure out what we want to do, once we get there, we'll get there and we will thrive. But I'm still trying to figure it out. I have no idea. Even still, I love making these videos and talking to you guys. So that's where we are. I recently started a new business adventure, so I'm going to walk you guys through that once I have more details. But good morning. So it is the next morning. After I filmed like that portion of the video, I had decided quick to put up like a little text box on Instagram and just have you guys ask me questions that you were curious about or wanted me to answer. So have my iPad here with all the responses, and we're just gonna go through the most frequently asked questions. The first one being, what do I do now? So I kind of touched on that earlier. I work for Nationwide, specifically with life insurance. So I don't sell life insurance. Like, that's not what I do. I'm on like the other side of it, of like how it functions and investments, where your money's going, things like that. So yeah. On to the next one. Hardest part of D1 gymnastics. Hardest part. I think that's kind of a tough question, because I don't think that it's the gymnastics itself that's harder. It's the shift in how gymnastics is ran. So in club gymnastics, it's very skill focused and progressive, of getting bigger and better skills and honing in on them. Whereas in college, it's not so much about upgrades, it's just being as beautiful and consistent as you possibly can to get the highest score possible. So that was a big shift. So you focus a lot on strength and conditioning to make sure that your body's in like the healthiest place it can be. And also as women, that's a tough time for us. So your body is changing. You're not 12 anymore. You're a woman by the time that you're exiting out of collegiate gymnastics. You are now for me, I was 22 when I graduated. So when I got to college, I was still 18. My body had changed drastically from 18 to 22. So I had surgery, I had injuries, and it was very, very taxing on my body. So I had to find a way to do all of the same skills. Some of my routines actually got harder by the time that I was in like my senior year in college, but I had to try to find a way to stay as consistent and as healthy as possible. And although it really didn't go that way for me to stay as healthy as possible, we had really good training staff to stay up with those things. But yeah, gymnastics is just tough like that. It's one of the sports that you just can't rely on the same skill set for your entire career. Whereas certain sports, you learn the basics and then you just go to a higher level and you learn different plays or you play with different people. Whereas gymnastics, it is constantly changing. Do I feel like I was prepared for life after sports? If I had to answer this in a yes or no, absolutely not. But I don't, no, I wasn't prepared for work after college. or sports in general. I was not prepared for the real world after college. And I don't think that there's a real way to prepare student athletes at a high level for life after college. While I feel like gymnastics gave me a structure, and the importance of having pride in your work and being good at something, and the work ethic that directly applies to a job. I had no idea. I had never sat through a job interview. Things like that I missed out on because I didn't have to have a job at 15. It was just never my experience. So when I sat down in a job interview, I have no idea how these things function. I had no idea really what I was doing. And although we had career classes, or there were people at Ohio State that helped you get internships, that was kind of towards the tail end at my time at Ohio State when those programs were being developed. I was part of like the guinea pig group of this thing that they do called Bucks Go Pro, where it gets you an internship at Ohio State. So you apply, it's an actual full-fledged interview, and then you get an internship. So it gives you something to put on your resume that's directly applicable to what you want to do with the rest of your life. I applied for Bucks Go Pro. I didn't get it. Like I said, it's not guaranteed just because you're an athlete. But I ended up finding my own internship in the department that I ultimately wanted to work with the Bucks Go Pro program. So I was very fortunate that I was able to find connections to get in there to have that. But again, it wasn't a interview process, a traditional interview process. It was in my field with people that I was familiar with because I am in the athletic department. And they taught me so many valuable things. And if you ask the lady that kind of oversaw me in that internship, who I still talk to here and there, I was a mess. I was not a great employee. I had no idea what I was doing. There were things that I had to learn in terms of how to function in a workplace. It's hard to prepare us for life after sports because we're still in it. And if I would have gotten a phone call in the middle of my workday for my internship that was, you need to come to practice, or you have shoulder rehab because you're 2 weeks post-op, time to go. It's kind of like when you're in elementary school and your parents call and say they have a doctor's appointment, so I'm picking them up early. And you just kind of, you do what your parents tell you to do. So, it's tough. I think Ohio State did the best they could at the time, and I do think that it's getting better. I see posts all the time of people graduating and getting jobs, and they were posting about it. They're proud of their student athletes for having a job, a career-based job right out of college. And if you're not having a career-based job, they're boasting about you going to getting your master's program, or entering medical school, things like that. Like, they are now doing what's necessary to make sure that you are prepared for life after college, which I think is great because the resources weren't as great as they were when I was in school, or even the people before me. I've talked to a lot of student athletes that didn't have any of the resources that Ohio State had. Ohio State has some of the best resources in the country, and I will stand by that. So for me to say that I felt ill-prepared is partially because, well, I was a student athlete. I did not just go to school and have a job and learn my likes and dislikes in a workplace. I didn't have that. You need to work really hard for a job. It's not just about sending your resume and they're just gonna get back to you in 2 days and say, oh, you're not a fit, or yeah, we'd love to interview you. It does not work that way at all. No one tells you those things, so. Okay, so the last one that we're gonna talk about, that this was the most intricate question. I think I kind of touched on it in the one before. It's like, what do you think they could have done to improve that? What do you think like schools or programs should do to get you better set for the real life? I think that this should personally start at a high school level. I'm sorry, but I don't remember the Pythagorean theorem. I mean, I do, but like, I don't use that. And I could care less about a parabola. I couldn't really tell you the generals from World War I. It has no gravity in anything that I'm doing today. The things that affect me most are the fact that I had to figure out how to learn how to file my taxes. How do I write a compelling resume? How do I balance a checkbook? Real life things that no one teaches you. What is credit? What? No one teaches you these things. These are the things that I think that we need to have conversations about way earlier on. So I think that you need to have these conversations and educate kids that, one, college is not the only way. Two, there are things that you may like to do that have nothing to do with the job. So how can I figure out what your likes, wants, and interests translate into a job? Have those conversations early. Help kids better learn who they are. And then when you go to college, it's not just about your coursework. What programs, someone needs to help make kids not just students, but employable adults. School will not get you through the rest of the rest of your life. There are too many kids in this world who consistently have straight A's, gold stars left and right, who then go to a workplace and it's like, I did my work, and their boss looks at them like, I don't care, that's literally what we hired you to do. There's no good job, there's no report card, there's no grades. You may have a performance review every couple of weeks, but literally no one cares. And then they fizzle out and they're confused, and then they feel like they have this identity crisis because our school system taught you that everything that you do right involves a reward, and that's not how this world works. So I wish someone would have better explained how to be an employable adult and taught you how to become an employable adult. Just have conversations. I've had way better learning opportunities with people that just speak candidly about their opportunities, missed opportunities, their experiences. It doesn't have to be a class. Make it a seminar, make it a part series, a YouTube channel. Someone do something about it, because there are too many people that go into this world, young people that go into the world that have no idea what they're doing, and they flounder for years in their 20s. And then they're 30 and it's like, oh, I wish someone would have told me that. You have an opportunity to be way more productive earlier if we were adequately teaching life skills. Yeah, that's how I feel. But if you guys have any other questions for me in terms of like job, life, life after sports, if you want me to do a part 2 of this, because there's a lot we could dive into, I will absolutely talk about those things. So let me know. And yeah, have a good rest of your day. Thanks for watching, guys.